possible.
Wait. Hold on. You mixed so many things in there. Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait. When you say
connected.
harass them and all of that, and then you say and make deepfake photos of them.
Is that wrong to like fantasize about someone and have attraction to them?
No, I don't think it's wrong. I just think it's wrong when you're
Manifest it, you said, right? Like,
but when you're trying to, when a person has clearly shown that they are not okay with it or whatever, I think it's wrong to take steps to make it as close to reality as you possibly can.
Oh, you keep using that phrase.
Okay, I know.
And it
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
make any
I don't know
sense.
how else to phrase it. I'm trying my
You're not
best
getting
here.
close. The reality is them. Deepfakes are not reality. Making the
No,
best deepfake
I
in the world is not
know.
getting any close to the realities. Okay, Pisco, are you ready?
yeah.
Okay, how do you feel about deepfake porn?
Oh boy. I think that there's room for regulation when it comes to the identity stuff, because I think that this is only going to get better, and I think that there's going to be an interest in
Wait,
us.
stop. Hold on.
Yeah.
Don't care about profiting any of that shit. I'm thinking from a moral level. How do you feel
from
that
a
somebody
moral-
could make, so do you think it's wrong if I take your face and then I generate like a photorealistic CGI body and all that shit and I put it on there? Yeah, I deepfake you and I start masturbating to it.
Okay. If it is wrong, it's only wrong because of our interpersonal relationship and our expectations, just like it would be wrong for me to, like, if you say, hey, I don't want you to, have any sexual thoughts about a significant other of mine, it would only be wrong if if there was an implicit or actual agreement or an expression, and it would only, I think, be wrong and like if you were hurt by it and there was like an expectation that I was
Okay,
doing
let's
something
go.
that,
Sure, let's run through some of these because there's a lot baked into this, right? Some of these I think sound okay. Some of these sound wholly unreasonable. So when you say, first of all, I don't think we need to draw a big distinction between explicit and implicit. So for instance,
Sure.
I don't think any girl has ever told me ever, I don't want you to deep fake porn me. I don't think anybody's ever said that to me before, but they all probably would feel that way, right? So implicitly, there's probably a lot of assumptions we can draw about what an average person would reasonably assume they would want another
That's
person,
correct.
right? But now you're saying it only matters based on the relationship of the person? How does that work? Why? So I can deep fake a stranger but not a friend? Yeah.
By the way, I want everyone to know this is my first foray into this topic as well. And so if I say something that I know that I very often sound very confident, but if I mess up, I'm sorry.
That's okay. My first foray was to laugh at the victims a ton, so you're good.
Oh,
Go
boy.
ahead.
Yeah. So I'm very concerned about having a rule that is too over inclusive, that includes things like I don't know, an artistic rendition or a comic book or something like that, where, is it in poor taste? Yeah, but there's a lot of pornography that's in poor taste. There's a lot of parody that's in poor taste. There's a lot of things that you can say about people that's in poor taste that I would say, like it's wrong probably to do, like, to make fun of someone, right? It's wrong to call me a sleep-sini soy boy, but,
Oh, no.
I can say it's wrong because I don't want to be called that. But what do I make of that, right?
Sure.
What am I to say about that?
Real quick,
yes, I could say it's wrong. But
Somebody in chat had a really good thought experiment, and I thought I wrote it down on my other monitor, and I must have deleted it. Fuck, can somebody find... There was a really interesting question that was being posed in chat, and no, I don't remember what it was. I think it was like 40 minutes ago. Fuck. Okay, sorry. Do you think that there's something special or different around, like, the sexual component? Because it feels like... Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, because people consider it different. And so if people consider it different, it's circular, right? People do consider what is sexual to raise the stakes. Like if you were trying to compare sexual assault and regular assault, as you've noticed, right? That comparison, it just breaks people's minds, right? And that's one way to find out whether or not, if you were to compare sexual assault to robbery, like armed robbery, there are people who will reject that comparison on the basis that there's a category error. So
fuck.
What?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Because we have a different category. Fuck. I don't remember who it was, but I remember the hypothetical. This would have been more a question for Pixie, though. Let's say that but Pixie seemed like she was going to say just fantasizing about somebody, period, was wrong. Somebody in chat had a question of, have you ever seen the, what's the one Jim Carrey movie with the girl and he loses her forever?
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, that one. What if those people existed in real life, kind of like an opposite version, where you could like go into somebody's brain and construct like perfect dreams? What if you constructed like a perfect dream, a fantasy of like deep fake fucking somebody.
I was wondering about if in the future there was like some machine, just like a VR thing, and you could just summon it up from your imagination.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Steven. I think that the problem is when the other people find out about it, right? If you're doing some kind of thing, like if you're just thinking about it, right? It's very unlikely that anyone's going to find out that you're just fantasizing in that way. You agree with that, right? But I think we'd all agree that if someone were to come up to a woman and say something like, I fantasized about you last night, that would be a wrong thing to do, right?
Yeah, I agree, but it feels like people don't even like the thought. Like if I were to ask a girl, like let's say I were to say this. Okay, hey, let's say there was a guy, a creepy dude, who was jerking off to every picture on Instagram. Would you like it if he went up and told you that? They'd say no. But then if I were to ask, would you like it if he was doing that? They'd probably still say no.
Yes, yeah, but I think that the action, that's fine, right? But we don't want to live in a world where you control. Let me think about this. Give me a second.
Destiny, earlier you said that you should be in full control of what goes on in your mind with no consequences, right?
Yeah.
Does that still apply if people can mind read?
Probably. Because you don't have to mind read my mind.
What if?
How do you distinguish it, Stephen? I mean, because I'm
I don't know. I'm representing the other side of the argument for you. I don't know the right answer for any of this. It feels like there's a special thing that we. So here's the thing, okay? I don't like it when people think certain things about me, okay? I don't like it when somebody thinks I'm a soy boy fuck, right?
Yeah, okay,
and somebody would say kick rocks, and I say I don't like it when you think I'm a bad debater. Kick rocks.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
No.
But if I say I don't like it when you think about like brutally me in the ass and you have these detailed rape fantasies of me, people are like, yeah, true. They shouldn't think that. So it feels like there's some special boundary around sexual things where it's like I can dictate the terms of your mind sexually,
but only there.
Yeah,
but,
why?
But that doesn't make sense. But that doesn't make sense because I think you got it right. Like I would be upset and mad if I knew that you thought that I was an asshole, right? I don't want you to even think that, even. But I think when we're talking about wrong things, something that is wrong, I think most of the time we're talking about some action that has effects on other people, or could have effects on other people. Because if otherwise, we're living in a world where we're saying like your very thoughts are bad, and I don't think that's how people. Well, I guess sometimes people talk that way.
Yeah, but like for this deepfake stuff, if you made deepfake porn only for yourself, I think most people would still think it's wrong.
And let's say that you only watched it in a skiff in a place where it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like the because it's not a Destiny stream without a crazy analogy. I think it's similar to how we view child porn. Not view it directly because of course none of us here would ever do that, but in that like
this is a disgust.
Yeah,
whether or not it's.
And even if we had like an argument where it's like this is already created, it won't lead to anywhere future harm, it won't make the person want to rape children, etc., etc. Even if you run down all those arguments, most people would still say just viewing it, period, is bad, even if there is no extra harm.
Even if there's no production harm.
Yeah.
Even if there's no even if it's all just digital, even, right?
Yeah. Possibly.
You would say it's bad, and even if you said something like. And this will.
Sure. Yeah, we don't need equality. Yeah, we get rid of all the bad external effects or whatever. Yeah, it feels the same with the deepfake porn. Like even if you were like, I only view it on my own, nobody else sees it.
Like, what if you said it had positive effects? Now, instead of saying that you're getting rid of the negative,
it becomes way more complicated, but it moves away from the interesting part because now we're talking about like weighing pros and cons. When really, I want to talk about should this be a con at all? Should it be? Is it a bad thing? If somebody sexualizes?
I think there can be a lot of things that. That look, you have to bite the bullet on. If there is some action that has no negative consequence as a given, right? You're saying it's a given that there's no negative consequence, and you're defining consequence. I assume to mean.
Well, I'm going to say it's a given. There's no negative consequence because if there is negative consequences, then obviously it shouldn't be allowed. But then we get away from the interesting part of like why is a deepfake bad? Should a deepfake not be allowed? Into just like well, this is harming someone, so of course it should be. Banned, right?
So if something is not harming anybody, not even the person consuming it, right? Because you could look at it, and it's not changing their behavior at all, except for the 30 minutes they would have spent on sexual gratification elsewhere. They're using it there, so there's not even a loss in efficiency of any kind. I think you have to say that like yeah, there's nothing wrong with it unless, and the truth is that we don't live in that universe, and that the reality is, by even encouraging this market to exist, you're going to have leakage, and you're going to have examples of these that do not fit the model where they're like accounting for all the
I
negatives,
understand,
right?
but then we, but that if we, but that's the hard part of the conversation. If we solve that and we say, okay, well, intrinsically it doesn't matter. You don't have a right to dictate what somebody masturbates to. If they want to have the most detailed fantasy view ever, it's whatever. They can draw pictures, they can do whatever. You can't control that. But then if we say, well, but there could be some leakage effect and that's harmful, then we get into like justifying.
That's the rationale for the child pornography stuff, right?
Well, yeah, but I don't like to talk about child porn because that's such a unique thing, right? Like,
it is unique.
So, for instance, like I can watch murder gore, which in my opinion is more extreme than child porn. But I can go and watch people getting destroyed by ISIS in crazy ways, or a ton of other type of murder gore, and that stuff is almost for sure encouraged by more people seeing it, because they want people to see that. When the cartel people in Mexico kill people, they want people to see the videos so they see how crazy they are. But we can consume that without question for some reason. There's very few people saying like that should be made illegal, but child porn is like all ultra legal. So the child porn stuff is a special, interesting edge case. Yeah.
Well, I think that there could be a basis for saying that kind of stuff should be restricted, right? Like if we actually thought that allowing it would encourage increased production, I would see the rationale very similar, and I think that you agree with that.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I'm just saying for most people, because like people will be against like lolicon and shit, and it's like, why do you care if people jerk off to cartoons? And it's like, maybe they'll go. Actually,
like, yeah, I think that you would think that like it matters how people would react to it. It matters if it increases production of something that is not compliant with the safety goals.
I don't think most people think that. I don't think people genuinely believe the argument that like I'm against lolicon because those people are going to go out and rape kids in the real world. Because if I were to pose a question, okay, let's say that I knew 100% that if you jerked off to lolicon, you would never rape a kid. Would you be okay with it? They'd still say no, it's gross, it's creepy, it's weird, it's sexualizing children. They'd still be against it. I think that's a red herring.
That can be fine, but people then they're just inconsistent if you push them on it, and we don't want it. Like they can be inconsistent, but like we shouldn't be inconsistent. And I think the truth is, like, you know, if you have a bad thought in your head that doesn't manifest anything, you know, it doesn't even make your day worse. Mm-hmm. You just like a brief second that you're like, God damn, I hate this guy. I think that it would be weird for us to say that's an immoral thing to do. Even if it was like, if you had a thought in your head that was like a vicious, even a viciously, like horrific with sexual connotation thought against someone for like a brief second, it doesn't affect you at all other than the moment in which it happens. Would you say that's a wrong thing to do?
No, I don't think any thought should ever be wrong, right? That's my position.
Okay. Sorry, the conversation got interesting again. And then I think I figured it out. I kind of wrote it down, so I'm just going to read it quickly and then you guys can tell me what you think. So it feels like instead of taking a no, like, please respect my boundary. I don't want you to physically depict me in that way. People have an entitlement of, no, I can depict you however I want, and I will go out of my way to depict you in this way, right? So you're doing an extra action. And if you're willing to go out of your way to depict someone in that specific context, it feels like something that can easily spill over to, like, why not try to take nude photos or panty shots or go through like all your images, or every single time you're on camera in public to create like some sort of creepy collage of you being nude, because I feel like I should be entitled to do that, instead of just taking like I don't want physical depictions of me in that way. Because I think most people would say like, oh yeah, like if it was just a fantasy like in your head, whatever, like I don't like that, but I wouldn't say it's like wrong. But if you're going out of your way to make it as realistic as possible, I think that's when people start taking an issue with it.
Yeah, I understand what you said. Okay, real quick, let me just knock down a couple of these real quick. So the easily spill over, I don't think you believe or care about that. Because if I were to tell you that, like, let's say there's 0% chance that any of this ever spills over into any more action, would that change your thoughts on this at all?
I think it would, but I just don't think that's reality. So it's hard for me to conceptualize that.
No, you should be able to. I mean, like, I think that I agree with you, Bexy. I think it does. The fact that I know that it probably will spill over probably changes my decision on whether there should be regulation.
Wait, what is the spill over? That if somebody's making deepfakes, they're more likely to try to...
That there's that I think that like there's a harm caused probably by deepfakes in that way.
Wait, I don't know what the spillover is. I don't know what is the spillover.
It means a natural inclination to sexualize and objectify.
No. That's not a spillover. Those are some thoughts.
I'm talking about like I'm in the world I'm envisioning. I think there's a legal use of deepfakes and probably a legal use.
I'm just trying to figure out what is the spillover.
Yeah, in order to explain that, I have to tell you this.
Okay.
I promise. in my world that I'm envisioning, there's a world in which there's properly made deepfake stuff, which either has the consent of the person or identifies itself as the deepfake, that it's a deepfake and not a real thing, and there's like some kind of watermark. I don't know, something like that. And a world in which I could see a world in which encouraging the legal market might increase spillover of unauthorized and non-compliant deepfakes. Does that make any sense?
No, I don't know what the difference is between a compliant deepfake and a non-compliant deepfake. If you don't want deepfakes at all, they're all non-compliant, no? Or what's it?
People use that argument for like legalizing sex work, encouraging more sex work to happen as well.
Right. Yeah. That if you've never heard this argument before, Stephen, that like if you would make legal prostitution.
No, but that's meaningfully different because like prostitution involves another living human being, and you can traffic a living human being, and that's what makes that bad. But for deepfakes, you can make a deepfake, you can't traffic a deepfake. I don't understand that. I don't think the comparison.
No, it's really easy. The comparison is really easy. So there would be, under a regime of legal prostitution, there would be a set of prostitution that's totally above board.
Wait, no analogies. Just keep it on the deepfake. I'm just trying to figure out what is the spillover of the deepfake. What is the negative stuff that can start happening?
So authorized deepfakes and unauthorized deepfakes. Deepfakes that are compliant with.
What is an unauthorized deepfake?
Set of restrictions. I was trying to explain to you that I think that there should be a world in which deepfakes exist, but that they're restricted and they're regulated in some way, and that you could envision.
Yeah, I don't think you're not saying anything of substance right now. Okay, hold on, macro, back up. Hold on, wait, back up. Okay, fuck. I don't know the registration legalization.
He's saying you make your own deepfake, or someone makes one of you. The one that you make is fine. Other people's isn't.
Wait, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, right, that I think that you could justify some restrictions. One example might be that, like, deepfakes that you authorize are allowed. Is that Cherry that just said that?
Yeah.
So that would be an example. You don't have a problem at all, right, with authorized deepfakes?
Well, but that's where we're at right now. If somebody authorized a deepfake right now, it would be okay.
Yeah. So I am just setting. I'm saying that if we have this world in which deepfakes exist at all. Or if we want to introduce additional restrictions, like there should always be a watermark under a deepfake as part of a legal requirement or some kind of regulation, that maybe someone could argue back and say, well, even allowing it with restrictions as intended or as made, you're just going to increase the amount of unauthorized deepfakes, unauthorized as in not having the watermark or not having the authorization. You still don't understand.
Yeah, you're saying that if we allow deepfakes, then people might make deepfakes that we don't want to be allowed? That sounds like an argument against literally every single thing on the internet ever.
I'm not saying that I agree one way or the other. I'm just saying that it's possible that if we allow deepfakes with some restrictions, it could be the case that some allowing
You're basically talking identity theft.
Well, but don't we then, shouldn't we ban all porn?
Listen, I'm just saying that that's a factor to consider, right? If you think that allowing any pornography is going to increase the amount of illegal pornography exponentially, I think that you would agree that we should ban all porn, but that's not the world we live in, right?
Well,
I mean, it kind of is. The
decriminalization and legalization argument is that, well, not the whole reason, but a main portion of it is that if it is legalized and regulated, it's much easier to, like when Backpage went down, there was a huge drop in the ability to find people who were being trafficked because Backpage was working with law enforcement when you could report things as being trafficked. So if there are like, quote unquote, like legal deepfakes, and there's like a system for those, maybe it would make it easier to police the non-consensual deepfakes?
Maybe. Okay, wait, hold on, back up. Wait, hold on. That's not what I want. Yeah, hold on, back up. Okay, if we're saying that we don't want to legalize deepfakes because some legalized deepfakes will lead to some illegal deepfakes, I feel like you could apply that argument to all of porn. Go ahead.
You're being stupid right now. I'm so sorry, Stephen.
I'm being stupid?
I'm saying is that yes. All I'm saying is that whether or not having an industry for something would increase bad deepfakes is a relevant consideration. It could be the case that that's never proven or that's not able to be proven.
Sure, but that's at like the application level, but we're like still at the ethical level, right? We might be able to ethically say that that like viewing child porn is whatever, so we don't care. But at the application level, that like viewing child porn encourages the creation of more child porn, therefore we should ban it. So it's not the consumption necessarily that's unethical; it's the downstream effects, right? But we're not even at the downstream effects yet. We're trying to figure out if deepfakes period are okay or not okay. So why are we at the application level?
We could make this less controversial and talk about kink porn, like consensual non-consent.
Sure.
All Pixie was saying was something to the effect of like, it's hard for me to envision a world without with the consequences and with the restrictions and the hypothetical constraints that Destiny is imposing, because I have to think of the world that exists. And I say, all I said was like, I would probably agree with you that the real world couldn't exist with some of the things that Steven is equalizing, but if we're engaging with the hypothetical, we have to consider the world as presented. That's all I was saying, and that one of the considerations might be any kind of spillover of. That's how I understood it, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Well, the spillover that I'm imagining, or basically the reality that I'm imagining, is that it makes me feel really unsafe, or I guess like gross in a way, to think that if we have a future where it's easy to make like deep fake porn, like having to essentially go out in a burqa or some shit in the fear that whenever somebody takes my image, they might create photorealistic porn. And even though in theory you say you're going to keep it to yourself, like it still has a possibility of somebody else like being on your computer, finding it, sending it, etc., etc. Yeah. So it seems like to me like that a future where deepfake porn is okay, like people just do it, whatever. Then you're suddenly like having a huge like percentage of women in the population that if they don't want to be non-consensually objectified, they basically have to cover up 24/7.
Yeah, but like for this, like this is gonna come off as hella sexist. I would just say that like now we're catering to like women's delusions of male sexuality in terms of how we should construct all of society. Like when like. Well, the reality is that like a lot of men are jerking off to a lot of pictures at all points in time. There might be a large population of the women in the world that like delude themselves into thinking it's not. I've argued with women that say when they do their OnlyFans it's artistic and that like guys are looking at it for artistic reasons. Like but I don't think that we should construct like our moral like foundation of like this is right or wrong based on like how well women are able to delude themselves on how men do themselves in society.
She's just saying that she doesn't believe that your world exists, that where the ethical consumption of this stuff would exist such that it wouldn't be at risk of, because you said one of the things would be, let's say that you only consume it and no one else consumes it, no one knows about it, people would still think it's bad. And she's saying, like, I just don't think that a world would exist in which that happens. That it would lead to more, the deep fake would be released or something.
Well, I'm also saying you can say like people are always jacking off to women, but there's a difference between like just jacking off to someone and going out of your way to always have them like sexually available or have them in a sexual context one way or another.
Is it?
So there's a difference. Yeah, I do think there's a difference. There's
I don't think so.
I think there is a strong difference between like going on somebody's like Instagram or whatever, and then taking pictures of women you see in real life and getting like different positions or angles to try to create the most like possible real deepfake.
Yeah, but you have no idea.
What do you mean you have no idea? Like,
you would have no idea. You would never know one way or another how somebody's engaging with that content. As long as they don't contact you and tell you or anything, it's just.
Well, it seems like women would still be in a constant state of paranoia because depending on how I don't know the right word, spread this becomes, or depending on like how constant it is or how much of it ends up being in the future, it seems very easy to imagine a world where people are just like fucking constantly paranoid that they're going to become the subject of that. They can't literally exist in a public space without someone, trying to create the best deepfake porn possible of them.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's kind of already the world that like exists. Like I think you just have to accept it and be like, yeah, people are going to try to masturbate to shit I see and think about me and sexualize me. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah, but there's a difference between.
Steven, you do not believe that because you think that on balance, I heard you say today, 60% of you thinks that the deepfake stuff is wrong. And so and I know that you don't think that the masturbating by yourself and just fantasizing is the same thing. And so how do you square those two in your head? You think they're different. And so how can the world be the same?
Hold on. First of all, you can't ask me for my particular thoughts and then appeal to like a poll of chat. Those are two fundamentally different things. What question are you asking me?
No. You said 60% of Steven thinks that it's probably wrong. The deepfake stuff is wrong. And that 40% thinks it's okay. Then how can you, if on balance you think it's probably wrong?
I don't know if I think it's. Wait, what are you getting that I think it's wrong?
Didn't you say that you think the deepfake stuff is wrong?
I'm not sure.
Did you say on balance? 60%?
This is like all like I haven't this is something I'm figuring this out. I don't have a strong opinion on this at all. I could easily be argued in any different way. Jesus. Fuck, I forgot what the initial question was.
I thought I heard you say, and I could be wrong with that you were leaning 60% it's wrong.
Oh, I'm just saying, I feel like there's an intuitive repulsion towards it, but I don't know if that should make it wrong or not.
Oh, so you were just saying that people have an intuitive 60%.
Maybe, or yeah, I think there was a notepad where I was writing out like things that we intuitively feel like are okay or not okay, like taking a private picture of somebody's probably not okay.
What do you feel? I mean, like, what is your intuition? That it's the same as just fantasizing, or that it's meaningfully different?
My intuition is that it feels meaningfully different, but when you try to justify,
so then how can you say it's the same world that we're living in? That if the world that we're living in,
if you let me say 4 more words, you would have figured it out.
Sorry,
okay, yeah. I said my intuition is that it feels meaningfully different, but upon further investigation, it doesn't seem like it actually is. Like,
oh well.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Wait, can I finish? I want to finish what I was
wait,
say
wait, hold on. No, not for like 15 minutes, okay? Let's finish, because it's like, can I ask a question? What if like 2 twins animals and the animals, unless you have something that's hyper relevant to this exact
line
is hyper relevant. Okay, Pixie, do your thing first, and then Forethought, you can ask your thing.
Okay. So the reason why that argument isn't very convincing to me, that's like, oh, people like sexualize you anyways, is I feel like there is a very different lived experience between women who, like, let's say live in the United States, and let's say women who like live in India, where you have to take separate or fucking buses, or separate train cards because men are constantly trying to get like some sort of like panty shot or some sort of like sexual shot of somebody who's in there, right? And it seems like to me, if people feel entitled to just have like the sexual, as realistic, as close to possible gratification of the woman as they possibly can, it would lead to more behavior on that end versus just like, okay, no, like do it at home, like leave yourself, like be alone when you do it versus like
sure. Let's ask this question, okay? Let's say that you could demonstrate that if people did the deepfake stuff, they never tried to take those creep shots again because they didn't need to. They could just go home and have like an even better deepfake version of whatever they could steal on a bus.
Yeah, sure. I would feel a lot better about that, but I don't think that's reality. I feel like it just leads to more like entitlement because you want to get as realistic as you possibly can. That's we just admitted it earlier. We just talked about it. That was like, oh yeah, like if they could, they would literally just have a nude of the woman, but they can't do that, so they go for the deepfakes instead. But the second that they could, they would do that.
Yeah, but that's true of everybody already. If they could have a nude of somebody they thought that was hot, everybody would every single male, 99% would already say, yes, I want that picture.
I don't want to say something that's going to sound completely random. So do you think most men, or do you think this is unchangeable? Do you think this is just a quality of most men? Let
her ask the question. Holy shit. Sorry, go ahead.
If they could have, like, let's say sex with a woman that they know doesn't want to have sex with them, but the woman's never going to find out, you think most men would be like, okay, yeah, we should do that? Or do you think that's something that maybe most men would say yes to, but that's just their society? Or what do you think?
I think most people would say yes if you didn't phrase it in the way we had to like rape them.
Well, yeah, no, it's
like, let's say if you phrase it, let's say there's a magical pill you could give somebody, and for 24 hours they would want to have sex with you, and then afterwards they'd wake up the next day, and then they would forget everything, and they'd be chill. There's no trauma. There's no any weird pregnancy or any shit like that. 100%. I think most people, if they thought about it, I think most men would take that.
No, but let's say it's like straight up rape. Like they're asleep. Like they're asleep.
Straight up
they
rape.
That would they won't notice.
No. That would significantly decrease. Like probably less than 10% of guys.
Okay, because why do you think that's the case?
Because you're raping somebody that's kicking and screaming, and it would feel
fucking... No. They're asleep. They're asleep. They're asleep. When they wake up, they're not going to have any memory of what happened whatsoever. It's going to be like if nothing happened to them.
So you're having sex with somebody and they don't want it, but you don't know, or you just know that they wouldn't say yes?
They take a sleeping pill.
That's horrible. Yeah, I don't think most people would do that.
I don't think most people would do that, no. Okay.
Why do you think most people wouldn't do that?
Because it would feel like rape.
But yeah, but what... I'm essentially asking you, like, okay, so people do value consent to a certain degree, right? Yes.
For some actions.
For some things.
Yes, exactly, for some things. So I feel like in a society where, people are expected to have the sexual gratification regardless of what the other person feels or thinks, and like can make it their problem by constantly like harassing them, trying to take photos, trying to make as realistic as a deepfake as possible.
Wait, hold on. You mixed so many things in there. Hold on.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
when you say harass them and all of that, and then you say and make deepfake photos of them, those are two wildly, even in your world, those are wildly different things.
No. My argument is that they would like try to like follow the person or try to take as many photos as possible, which I would consider a form of harassment, so that they could then make the deepfake.
Well, all of us already agree. First of all, this already happens to celebrities, but secondly, all of us would agree that that's wrong.
Yeah, so I feel like
no, not just that it's wrong, that it should be illegal, and that it should be a crime to do that.
I don't know about a crime. I don't know.
But a crime to like harass someone.
There's to harass someone, but like are paparazzi's illegal even though they harass people? Like,
I think there's probably some play on the joints for the free speech issue and like photographing people in public, but like if you're going to someone's home and or like, let's say you're trespassing on their home, or you're following them at all hours of the day and putting them in fear.
Yeah, of course. We would all agree that's wrong.
The point that I'm trying to make here is that it seems like if we live in a society where people are okay with deepfaking the photos, trying to get as close as they can to the sexual real thing, it seems like the next logical step is like, okay, when I have an opportunity to get even closer to that, I'm going to take the next step to get even closer there.
But the intuition could be reversed. The intuition could be the opposite.
Well,
I saying that there's less of a need for it because now all you need is a good picture of their face.
Yeah, no, this is we're circling back to like basically the child porn arguments, which honestly I don't know how to reconcile because I feel like there's no data on this whatsoever. So it's just it's a moral hazard. That's literally what it seems like to
I'm
me.
not sure the consent framework is very useful in this case. I don't know about you. I just like not every
because we don't have to have consent to fantasize about somebody. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is, fine. But the point is there's a difference between just fantasizing about someone and trying to take tangible steps into making that fantasy a reality.
You keep saying that phrase, but it doesn't make sense. Take steps to make it a reality.
Because you are putting you're putting the person's face onto the freaking video, making it as realistic as possible.
The reality is having sex with the person, not making a better fantasy of the person.
Well, that's the thing. What's the step right before? Like, it's not just fantasy.
No, wait, hold on. The step here, it's totally, your intuitions, I think, on this are totally backwards. So making the most deepfake, realistic, photorealistic, I do analysis from 3D government CIA satellites, that wouldn't be as close a step as, say, visiting a city where the person's in the hopes you'll see them publicly. That would be taking steps towards making it a reality. That's taking steps towards like making this a reality. The most fantastic deepfake thing ever, that's not a step in that direction at all. You're going down a totally different path. But if I like go to a convention where I think that person's gonna be, or if I try to get in the same friend group as that person or show up at the same restaurant, that's taking steps towards making it a reality, I think.
Okay, maybe my intuitions on this are reversed because I feel like you can do those things in a non-sexual context, but I feel like once you start constantly viewing this person in this sort of frame of light, then the next tangible step, if you don't think you're going to get a chance to hang out with them, be their friend or whatever, would be to try to get more pictures of them at different angles so that you could create the best deepfake for yourself. Right? Assuming that you can't be friends with this person, be in their group, whatever.
That's an argument against paparazzis and unauthorized photos.
Yeah, Pixie, wouldn't this put so many OnlyFans girls like at such risk, like to your standard?
What do you mean?
Because you say that it would go from deepfake to they start trying to take pictures like under your skirt to they start trying to get like nude photos of you while you're sleeping, and then once they get that, they're obviously just going to want to rape you.
I mean, that does happen, but
just from nude photos of you to rape?
Well, we're not just saying any nude photos. We're saying literally creating deepfake porn of you.
Yeah, no, but I think what you're getting at.
You're looking at deepfake as like the first cigarette. You're saying like, well, once they take a hit of this, they're gonna be addicted to nicotine, and then they got to go all the way.
Yeah, and that's what people say.
Yeah.
I think a certain type of person will have proclivities to do that, regardless of whatever kind of media they consume about a person. And I feel like that's just a risk with any kind of media you put out there. But I think maybe it is possibly worse with deepfakes. But I'm not actually that.
We have no reason to believe that, right? Like that's true.
Yeah, I think it's really just like certain people will be obsessive fans no matter what.
See, what is the difference between a very vivid sexual fantasy of someone and a deepfake to you?
It seems like you have to put literally more effort into creating the deepfakes, like software-wise, like rendering it, making it, finding the.
Would that be like the first cigarette then?
I think it's the first. What is it? I think in terms of like level of effort, it's kind of like the first. If you're willing to put that much effort into consuming porn of someone versus imagining it, it seems like it's going to be easier to put, or like there's less of a barrier to effort to other actions.
Why does effort matter? I mean, effort on the person who wants the gratifications part. Why are we considering their effort level when talking about this at all? Like I don't understand.
People making deepfakes aren't putting in effort. That's not like the effort part is the engineers. They've already made the website.
Well, yeah, but that's who we're talking about, obviously, right? Not just a person wanting it.
Okay, but even if it took no effort, does that change anything? I mean, I would think that people would be like you said, Stephen. Like people would be upset if they put effort or not. People would be upset if a lot of people saw it or just one person saw it.
Well, I feel like people care about that shit because of the whole like overarching like social phenomenon that is tied into it, right? The whole idea of like what's going to happen afterwards. Every time I'm going to come out, like somebody going to try to do this
disagree.
shit to
I
me.
think the uncomfortable part is I think people want to be able to dictate other people's thoughts. I think that's where it starts and stops. I think that everything else I think is post hoc, where people try to think, well, maybe it makes it unsafe for me, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's just the thought that a person that you know might be like masturbating to or whatever. I think that thought is gross. And if somebody's finding like more efficient ways of doing it, whether it's looking at pictures of you deep faking things or looking at public pictures or whatever, I think that thought in and of itself is, I think that's like 90% of the discomfort.
This is kind of what I was
I
getting
agree.
earlier
That's why I
about-
think that. Sorry, go.
It's just about how you want to be able to define the context of how you're perceived, whether it's like sexually. I don't think it's just sexually. I think it's like if you're like, there's like some
Yeah, it's not just
song
sexual,
with a
but the
dead
sexual
person.
thing
Yeah.
is like it's a special category of
It can be
thing.
it can be hot button, but I think it all comes down to like you want to be able to dictate the context of how you're perceived towards other people, and in some contexts we can, but in this context, is it okay to?
Isn't it a little weird, like in the opposite direction, where like we assume that if someone looks like looks at a naked picture, that they're gonna need to have sex with that. That feels really like
That is an assumption.
like a
I think that's an assumption in Pixie's argument, and I think.
I mean, I don't
honestly,
think that's
yes.
true for. Sorry, I'll let you finish. Yeah, continue.
I think it's an assumption in your argument that the picture will lead to a given action is an assumption in your argument, and that could be true. The picture could lead to a given action, bad or good. I think Steven's argument probably is closer to money, which is people don't want to be sexualized. People don't want to feel as though they're being used as a sexual object, and in that case, the deepfake aspect to it is totally not essential. The deepfake thing is just the new ground on which to fight the ongoing fight over the sexualization of women and sexuality in general and thoughts, and whether or not it should be problematic to have these thoughts.
I don't know. Maybe there is just two things. I don't think it's just a picture. I think it's purposely like going out of your way to consume that content. That's something different for me.
Wait, what do you mean by going out of your way? What do you mean by that?
I mean, like going out of your way to, let's say, like find a deep fake porn site and then like find the specific streamer or whatever.
Wait, so hold on. Let's say that we eliminated that aspect of it, and let's say that like there was just a website full of deepfakes where people just randomly deepfake like people from photos publicly. Like, do you think that would be okay? I feel like this part doesn't matter at all for you, the effort part.
Well, the reason why I say the effort part matters for me is why can't you just use your imagination? Like, why do you have to find the photorealistic porn? Why can't you just like keep it in your head? Why do you have to?
Then why? What do you mean? Because additional stimulus is always going to feel better, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like you are putting your additional stimulus like above the fact that like I guess women don't want to
control your thoughts.
Well,
yeah,
no.
of course.
Wait, no, because I'm saying if you want to jack off in your head about whatever, go for it. But then once you start putting it into like a physical reality to try to get as close as you can, it seems only logical that you would want to take more steps to get it even closer.
Why is that logical?
Yeah, I don't think that's logical. I think that's a separate train of action.
Okay.
I mean, technically, if you want to appeal,
true,
if you want to appeal
evidence.
even empirically, I think Portugal was the biggest country where they like legalized a whole bunch of different porn, and I think a whole bunch of sex crimes dropped across the board. I don't know if those are causally linked or not, but I'm pretty sure in most places when you legalize stuff like that, I'm pretty sure like sex crimes and stuff start to fall.
But I don't think you should. I'm gonna start like going in circles here. It's gonna start seeming like it's not all in line. I don't think you should ban all porn. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah, but I don't see how you don't think that if you think deepfakes are walking you down a certain direction, I don't know why porn in general isn't walking you down.
Because deepfakes is allowing you to like having specific access to someone that you otherwise like wouldn't have access to because they wouldn't have consented to.
What do you think the consent part is? Oh God, sorry.
When people do porn, generally speaking, they're consenting to being viewed that way. When it comes to deepfakes, the person is not consenting to be viewed that way. And now you're gonna go back to like, huh?
They're not doing that in the fantasy.
Yeah, they're not doing it in either one. But the point is, you're taking like even a step further to violate that consent versus the other one. It seems to me like there's a difference of degree here.
If we in the future had a chip that helped us visualize things in our brains better, do you think then that's okay to start fantasizing with that to help us?
I'd have to think about it more.
I don't think your issue is with the effort level here. I think it's intrinsically baked into the idea that just because you're a part of society, you like everyone else gets to sexually objectify you, and that's my issue.
I think because and maybe this is just a personal disconnect for me, and I have to, reevaluate and everything. But I know people jack off to me, whatever. I know everybody like does that to other people. But it makes me like really uncomfortable to think, okay, they couldn't just keep it in their heads. They had to make it. They tried to make it some sort of physical reality, or they tried their best to get as close to possible as that. Instead of just being content with their heads, they had to try to find a physical manifestation of it.
Why I don't?
As
I
a
just, it
literal
feels like
thing.
one. It just feels like it's a jump from one to the other, like naturally. If somebody's like masturbating, thinking of a person, if they could like find a picture close to that person, they'd be more like. How many times do people link porn and shit and like, oh, I like this person because it's like they look just like that one fucking actress, or they look just like this person or whatever. Like it seems like people are gonna do that. If they're fantasizing. I don't understand how somebody could be upset about like one thing but not about the other thing. Like if somebody's gonna jerk off thinking of me, of course they're gonna find ways to think of things that look closer to me or make a picture that looks like me or whatever.
This is why I go back to the whole like murder example. Like I feel like there's a difference between just, and you probably would, I do think there's a difference between just thinking about murdering someone and then going out of your way to start buying the materials for it.
Well,
If
of
someone made
course,
a
I would
really,
agree
really-
with that. Wait, do you think I would disagree with that?
Huh? So you agree with me on that? That there's a difference between just thinking about murdering someone and buying the materials to do so?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Well, doesn't it show a lot more intent if you start buying the materials?
Well, that's to me, yeah. That's I feel the same, like a similar way about the deepfake porn.
But buying the materials to murder someone is buying. When you buy materials to murder somebody, you don't get the satisfaction of murdering somebody. Jerking off to
Okay.
deepfake porn gives you the orgasmic satisfaction of sexually fantasizing about the person. The
I
buying
don't
the
think-
materials
I don't
aren't an
think
end to
the
themselves. But
I don't think the satisfaction happens until you have sex with the person. That's why it's like
that
like a
betrays the
stepping stone to
entire
it.
all the porn industry that's ever existed. I don't think people jerk off to porn thinking like I'm not gonna be satisfied until I fuck this
yeah,
actual
but I
porn
think
actress.
that's why her views on porn are different from her views on this deepfake thing.
But then they would just be wrong because people don't jerk off to porn
Well, I'm
thinking
not
like
saying they're right.
Well, sure,
I'm just
but I'm saying
saying
like
that's why
people
they're
don't. Yeah, I
different.
don't think people jerk off to porn thinking eventually one day I'm gonna fuck this porn star. I don't
No,
think
but they want to
Yeah, I
eventually
agree.
have sex. No, didn't you say that earlier?
Sure, have sex with somebody, sure.
Yeah. So it's like
But that doesn't come from porn. Like we always want to have sex. It's not like the porn created that drive. Like I think sex is pretty natural that everybody wants to have it. I think generally.
You don't think people? But didn't you say earlier that people want to have porn? People want to have sex with those specific porn actors.
With specific porn actors, I mean, if they could, but I don't think they take steps to do it. Like if you had like the hottest porn actor,
But because they're not accessible, right? The hottest porn actor is not living in your house or living like down the street or anything. But your friends sure are.
growing up, like boys masturbate to fucking sisters of friends and all sorts of shit for their entire lives. I don't think they take steps to do anything about it. I
You don't think people hit on like their friends and shit? Like
I don't think people take steps to people, like to people at least. They might like hit on somebody, sure, but I don't think they're like taking damaging steps just because they fantasize about somebody. No.
okay.
Is that wrong to like fantasize about someone and have attraction to them?
No, I don't think it's wrong. I just think it's wrong when you're
Manifest it, you said, right? Like
But when you're trying to, when a person has clearly shown that they are not okay with it or whatever, I think it's wrong to take steps to make it as close to reality as you possibly can.
Oh, you keep using that phrase.
Okay, I know.
and it
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
make any
I
sense.
don't know how else to phrase it. I'm trying my
You're not
best
getting
here.
close. The reality is them. Deep fakes are not reality. Making the
No,
best deep
I
fake in the world is not
know.
getting any close to the reality. Sorry, God.
Okay, wait, but it kind of is because now you got to view them in that intimate way that they didn't want you to see
But
them.
you
or
didn't view them in an intimate
That's
way.
a technicality. Your intent is to view them in that way.
No,
Your
your
brain is
intent
not
is
processing them as separate.
I think it would be. It'd be way different having a candid. I think your brain just processes those things incredibly separately.
When somebody makes a deep fake, oh, I don't want to use any streamer name. Okay, a deep fake porn of a streamer. When they're jacking off to it, are they really thinking, oh, this is just the streamer's face on this separate body?
I think-
Or do you think they're viewing them as, oh, this is basically the streamer?
Nope, I think they're viewing it as a deep fake. And here's the example I would use, and I would bet my whole life savings on this, okay? If I, on one hand, could show somebody a video of the best deep faked Pokemon or Alinity or whatever fucking streamer, the best deep fake video in the world versus kind of shitty low res, but like candid shots that somebody captured of the person, they would go for the candid, shitty low res shots 10 out of 10 times, every single time. They would say, I want the shot where I could barely see her fucking butt a million times over the best deepfake video in the world, because the authentic image would be more important to them. I guarantee it, 1,000,000%.
No, but the point is that when they're jacking off, the whole reason why it has, like, let's say Pokey's face on it to begin with is because they are visualizing it as Pokey. Otherwise, it would have been like, there's no reason to put her face on it.
There's like a fantasy of it, but it's still not the thing itself.
No, but the point is that it's like, I feel like I'm getting lost. The point is that that is as close as they possibly can get at that moment, because they're not going to be in her friend circle. They're not going to be in her friend group. They're not going to be in her manager. They're probably not going to live in the same city. So this is the step that they're going to take instead.
Well, sure, it's like jerking off to porn of them. But I just don't like calling it close to the thing itself, because the thing itself would be fucking them. But okay, yeah, we're circling. Okay. What?
Okay, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, what?
Okay, it seems like so this is like just a half-formed idea. This is not my take yet, but it seems like deepfakes are a unique attack on like sexual identity of someone, because usually when you're participating in porn voluntarily or involuntarily, there is some sort of agency involved, and it seems like just existing and having porn generated of you is really disturbing for most people in like a visceral kind of way.
Yeah, of course.
Do you disagree? Okay.
Agreed. That could be a basis, I think, for regulation, for sure. I think the mistaken identity thing is a problem. And I think that even though it's not, I probably agree with Steven, it's not 90% the problem, but I think it's, the more it gets, I don't know, photorealistic, the more of a problem it's going to be. If you literally cannot tell the difference between a deepfake and something that's real, the identity problem is going to be big, isn't it, Steven?
I'm not even talking about
Obviously.
legally. I'm talking about like how a person would feel with that like their identity being subsumed into something else, because like a lot of the time, like your sexual identity is built around like your behavior, your experiences, and your decisions, and seeing that extrapolated onto like a piece of work seems like gross in a unique
the
way.
consent framework doesn't work for the fantasy, right? You agree with that we would never be like, well, you didn't consent to me sexually fantasizing about you, right?
I'm not talking about consent at all. I'm talking about
understand.
agency.
We're not talking about that here, Pisco, but I actually do think that's where the majority of these opinions come from. I think people don't like to verbalize it that way, but I think in a world where people were being brutally honest, I think most women would say, yes, you should not be able, it should be immoral to fantasize about jerking off to me if I don't want you to, if I don't consent to it. I think most women feel that way.
Most women and Sejin.
Okay.
Did you
I'm
really
gonna
think
go
that
get ice
doesn't?
cream later?
I really think that.
So there's then the deepfake thing is just, that's all a distraction.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's what I
I
said
said
initially
that
about the
very
cutie
clearly
thing.
at the
I don't
beginning.
think any of this is actually even about deepfakes that much at all. I think there's other issues at play. Yeah.
I think it has to do with like sexualization and objectification, that kind of stuff, which we've already been dealing with.
Yeah, body dysphoria, being compared to like perfect bodies and stuff like that. I think that's what, yes, all of it has to do
What
with.
is then the different stuff is, because even before the deepfake, Pixie, I think you agree with this. Would you say the same thing about like a photorealistic, artistic painting of someone in a sexual way? Like that's the same kind of things are at play there, right? If you were a really great artist and your friend's sister was around and you made an awesome painting of her, in your opinion, awesome in terms of the photorealistic aspect to it, that would have the same problems.
Yeah, if you're going out of you to make a sex, yeah, I agree. If it's like sexual, I do think that there is nudity that is artistic. I don't think all nudity is sexual, but I think that's besides the point. I think like if it's for sexual gratification, going out of your way to do that is weird, and I think bad, wrong.
I mean, same thing, and you'd say the same thing for like a detailed fan fiction as well, right?
I have to think about that more, but right now I'm leaning towards yes.
And you would say the same thing about a safe for work but sexual cosplay too, right?
A safe for work sexual cosplay of what? What are
Somebody
you saying?
just like a sexy Pokemon cosplay, basically.
Yes, if it's based on a person in real life, yeah.
Yes, like if you do a cosplay, let's say you're doing female streamer cosplay, but like sexy version, right? But it's not explicit. It's just it's a undoubtedly sexual portrayal, but it's quote unquote safe for work. That would be problematic for the exact same reasons the AI generated.
If it's a general streamer cosplay, not problematic. If it's streamer cosplay as in I'm doing a specific streamer, yeah.
So then it really seems like the thing that's consistent across all of these different things is not some kind of like thing that exists forever, right? Because the cosplay, maybe you have photos of it, so maybe that exists forever. But it would be problematic even if no photos were taken. I think you'd say that. The thing that seems consistent is the thought, right? The
Well, no, I
sexualized
think
thought.
all of these include effort. If you were just doing it in your head, I think that is so. But I'm not even sure if I want to call it bad. Like, I still have to think about it.
Yeah,
but
wait,
I feel like
the effort
that
doesn't
is.
make the effort is weird because what if somebody could make flawless deepfakes with almost no effort?
Yeah.
I don't think you'd be
Well,
okay with it.
If it was just literally one click,
Yeah.
you just put in the name of the person. There's a database that
So
someone is
maybe the
out.
right word is just a physical manifestation versus just keeping it in your head.
What's the difference between the physical manifestation on a computer versus like the electrons buzzing around your brain?
No, she would say the computer is physical manifestation. She would
Yeah.
say the computer is one. She would say the costume, the cosplay would be a physical manifestation, right? You're physically showing other people in a way that they can see it, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a manifestation of it. It doesn't matter.
Is there just like an inherent link to being sexualized and just having a fear about that? Like knowing that you're sexualized by somebody, do you just feel in fear?
No, I think I'm like, I know I'm sexualized, so I'm not. That's not the part that bothers me.
So when you say that you know you're sexualized, what you're guessing,
I mean,
unless someone has specifically gone out of your way to tell you.
She's a girl on the internet, even if nobody DM'd her, it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Maybe an insight into this is I had an OnlyFans and I had to ban a dude, and then he kept making accounts to get back into it and was taunting me about it. And I didn't really care, obviously, about being sexualized, but I hated that he was trying to find ways to still get that satisfaction. And I feel like there's some sort of similar vibe to like people are getting satisfaction that you didn't offer to them.
Yeah, so this is, I'm going to give the big red pill take that I think is actually pretty true here. I think that a lot of what's happening is traditionally men get sex and women give sex. And I think that when a man is getting sexual satisfaction from a woman, she feels like that should only happen if she's giving it to him. So if a man finds a way to get some kind of sexual satisfaction from a woman who doesn't want to give it to them, I think that process in and of itself feels really gross and disgusting. And I think that's why men in general don't care about deepfakes, because like, you jerked off to me, okay, like why would I care? What are you getting from me? Like that doesn't even feel like anything. But I think for women, I think generally there is the feeling of giving sex or giving sexual pleasure gratification to men, whereas men have the feeling generally of taking it. And I think that's where the gross feeling comes from. I think deep down, I think that's my feeling.
I don't know. I think
that doesn't make sense to me.
What part of that didn't make sense?
What giving and getting means for different people.
That in general,
I don't know how men generally feel one way, but women feel another way. I feel like the issue with women and their sexuality and sex, I thought, was like outside societal judgment on them. Like what it means for them to be viewed as sexual or to have given up their body sexually, for other people to value them less. I don't know what else.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's going to be societal thing. Maybe this
people.
all comes from society, I guess. But I mean, I can't know that. But I'm just saying that I'm explaining as it is now. Women tend to be the ones that give sex, and men tend to be the ones that pursue sex. So if that dynamic,
maybe that is
what?
Maybe that works for the male side of it too. But I feel like it's also just like wanting to control the context and how you're perceived.
But the question is like, no, because there's something special and different about the sexual thing. Like if I did a comic about you where I made you like an evil racist person, I think it'd be like kind of annoying and stupid. But like assuming that it's not like everybody's not believing it, I don't think you'd care as much if somebody was like deep faking porn of you.
If there was like if I had like a special like funeral rite for like my fucking grandma or something, and people commodified that in some like making fun of it kind of way, I feel like I'd be just as offended as with like a deepfake.
I don't know what any of that meant. A funeral rite to what?
I'm saying like if I perceive like a special funeral rite for somebody as like a meaningful, important thing, and that's the context that I want to see it in. If somebody took that,
hold on, I don't know what that means. What is a funeral? What is a funeral rite? What does that mean?
I don't know, like something like I go out in the woods and like play music and light a candle or something, and people are like, "Look at this fucking dipshit out in the woods." Like if I thought it was super fucking meaningful and I want it to be perceived that way, I would be sad if somebody like posted that and was like, "Look at this dumbass."
Sure, but that's just like bullying you though, right? That's the mean thing. That's not
Yeah,
like
exactly. You want to control the context of how you're perceived, and if somebody is changing that context, it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it's bullying, sometimes it's deepfakes.
sure, but I mean, like a guy would not
Sometimes
like
people
it.
are too fragile.
Well, no, I don't think there's well, sure, but like we're trying to figure out like why is there fragility around this particular concept, or why do people feel
Yeah.
bad about this particular thing? But I think guys would feel bad about that too. If a friend died and they had a special ritual or whatever, and then somebody photographed it and made fun of them, that'd be bullying. But I think there's something different about the sexual thing. I think it feels different.
I think maybe I just have a different mindset.
No,
on
I
that, so maybe I'm
agree.
not the best person to represent that.
Maybe. Well, I mean, if you
I
did OnlyFans
agree
stuff,
with
right?
your
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
your difference between how men and women like perceive someone sexualizing them. Like, I agree with that, but at what point do we evolve past it? Like, how many times do we explain why it feels different for a woman?
I feel like.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you can finish.
Well, I was gonna say
and then-
that might be I don't know, but that might be like a very deeply rooted like feeling that just kind of comes from male versus female biology. Maybe that's something that doesn't like get societally brushed away. That's just always a feeling we kind of have that just stems from the innate differences between us.
I feel like most men would feel similarly if you decided to say like, oh, imagine if there's like the gay community or whatever has a bunch of like deep fakes of you getting like pounded in the ass by whatever. Like, I feel like a lot of men would suddenly be like, oh yeah, that would be kind of weird. Like, I don't think that's right.
I thought
Like,
about
don't
this, but I don't think so. I think it would be funny. I think some very homophobic people might get really angry, but I think in general, I think it would be funny. I think people would laugh. Like if there were, and I think even the public would laugh. If there was a site that opened up where all of a sudden people saw that there were a ton of deepfakes of like me and Hassan fucking each other, like people would laugh. Everybody in LSF would laugh. Probably even me and Hassan would think it was kind of funny, and it would just be like that would be the end of it. But if it was deepfakes of like a lesbian like Twitch streamer couple, it would be like, holy shit, this is like fucking the worst thing ever. It would be way different, I think. I think it would be treated way differently.
I think people would find it funny just because you and Hassan have a contentious relationship. I think most men would feel weird if they found out that their male friends or whatever were making like super realistic porn of them.
You might
But
feel, there's going to be a weird feeling for sure, but it's different. It's going to be different than like the visceral negative reaction. I don't know why. Oh, true. I don't know why I'm speaking hypothetically. People have already made fanfic and drawn pictures of me and Hassan and shit. That's true. Yeah, I think there's a visceral negative feeling that women have that men don't when it comes to sexual things of this nature.
Would you feel strange if you found out that I feel like I already know the answer to this, but I'm just curious. If you found out that Hassan is making photorealistic porn of you?
Yeah, I would definitely feel weird, but I wouldn't care that much. I was like, that's kind of weird. But that would be it. That would be the end of it.
Pixie, I think if you're looking for a gotcha on men specifically with this take, I don't think it's enough to say like, oh, how would you feel if you had like gay porn made of you, or like with deepfakes and stuff like that. I think you have to take it back to how would you feel if there was deepfake porn of your mom or your sister made, because then I think they could connect it to something that would like viscerally bother them in the same way that it viscerally bothers women immediately.
Yeah, but that just reinforces my point that it's because there's a fundamental difference between the way that men and women give and take sex. So of course I would agree with that, but it's because it reinforces my earlier point.
I'm gonna go now. Bye.
Bye. Be careful.
Bye.
Do you think that it's pretty much impossible to reduce the level of sexual proclivity that men have to engage in like sexual fantasies?
I have absolutely no idea. That I don't know how much of that is because there are a couple of biological things about us that will never change that might downstream influence how we view sex. Two things are, one is men have external sexual organs and women have internal sexual organs. So the act of sex on just a biological level kind of requires a little bit more trust from the woman part because you're having somebody go inside your body, whereas for a man, it's an external process. So that's like one part of it. And the second part of it is the physical strength difference, that a man has never been in a sexual situation with a woman worrying that the woman's going to overpower him or do something, whereas the woman is. So now I don't know the answer to this, but it might be the case that maybe those two biological facts in and of themselves will always heavily inform the pursuer, avoider dynamic when it comes to sex. That might be the case. I don't know if that's true or not, but that might be the case. And if it is, then no amount of societal rewiring or promiscuity of women or like promiscuity of men will ever change that association with sex in terms of like gatekeepers and chasers. Maybe, but
if it was shown that that sexual proclivity could be conditioned out of men in the long run, do you think that it would then make sense to stigmatize sexual fantasization of women?
I mean, if you could show a bunch of downstream positive things from it, maybe we're rewiring a lot of society at that point. I have to think about that a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out for realsies this time.
Okay, be
Thanks
careful.
for having me. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Also, Steve, are you the only person that's like supposed to say bye to people? I've been saying bye to other people too, but it seems like nobody else does.
Yeah, I'm the only person. They're saying bye to me. I don't care about you.
All right, I'll shut the fuck up.
Okay, singularity. It's these two. Wow, good one, guys. Pixie was really driving the conversation, huh?
Wait. Okay, have y'all ever seen the music video for Kanye West's Famous?
Is that the one with the wax people?
Yeah, and then he like filmed them naked. Like, how is that meaningfully different than like the deepfake porn? Other than like obviously the deepfake AI stuff has like implications.
I don't know if it is. I think a
like,
lot of people felt uncomfortable about that, didn't they? Wasn't that a pretty big deal?
Yeah, it was a huge controversy, but like I'm seeing more controversy over this, but I'm wondering if it's like a meta like sort of panic over like, oh shit, this technology enables people to make more things like this. It's not just like the discrete example that they have a problem with. And it's more like this existential dread, or if it is like people taking it down to this like consent thing of like you're violating X person's consent by like depicting them sexually without their permission.
I think for the cutie incident, I don't think this has anything to do with deepfakes. I think it's a very small percentage of it. For the broader conversation, where people are talking about deepfakes, I think the scary thing is just the ease of access. Because before, if you wanted to do shit like this, it's probably going to be like a lot of fucking effort. And now the idea that everybody has it on at their fingertips is probably a bit scary to people. Because before, maybe they'd say like, I'm kind of not okay with this, but it'll probably never happen to me. And now maybe everybody's worried it'll happen to them.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your voice, by the way.
Thanks. I worked hard to get rid of the. I went from sounding like a 50-year-old chain smoker to somebody said Emma Stone, and now I'm just back to my normal ass annoying voice. So
good job.
Cycle's complete. I think there's an argument to be made though that the consumption of this porn is like absent distribution or like patronizing any website that generates these like deepfakes and stuff like that. Obviously that stuff contributes like tangible harm, is almost just as harmful to the individual consuming it, especially if you actually like know the person.
It's harmful to the person that's the subject of the porn that's being consumed, or
no. Everybody I think is focusing on that, but like I think that there's danger to the consumer of the type of person who's engaging like with these deepfakes of people that they know.
What's the danger?
Or like the AI things. Like if you, okay, like picture you, age 15, you have a crush on like, you know, two girls in your class, Nikki and Jessie, okay? And, you know, 10 years ago, the only thing you would have had access to in terms of like quote unquote jerk material is basically like their Facebook pictures. But now imagine a paradigm where you actually have access, like at age 15, to an AI bot that all you have to do is like input some just like rudimentary like links or access to like their social media profiles that can generate something that you can talk to, that you can form this like private parasocial relationship to, or make like deepfake porn of. And then you're engaging with that repeatedly. Like that seems like it's not, like how healthy could that fucking be for you?
I mean, the same exact arguments were made for porn, right? Like, I think Red Pillars will even talk about how, like, men used to have to work hard to earn pussy and do all these things, and now you can just jerk off to porn, and now the incentive for men to be great and do anything is, like, destroyed. I mean, that might be true to some extent. Like a boy, by the time they're age 11, has seen, like, fucking more tits than, like, their entire fucking, you know, lineage combined at that point, right? Depending on which side you've been on.
Well, to me, I think they come at it from the angle of, like, oh, it's unearned or whatever. Like, you didn't work for it. That's the problem there. To me, it's not even that. It's like especially if you're like the kid in this hypothetical or whatever, like realistically knows that they never have a chance to get with these girls. And yet they're able to get with them, quote unquote, anyway, and even have interactions with them at school, but it's never going to go beyond like a platonic interaction. I think that's what would be like the toxic element there. I guess, but does it not happen already to some extent with people just jerking off to people's like fucking Instagram and Facebook pictures? Like, you guys have access to crazy shit today that it was considerably harder. Like, Jesus, I'm actually thinking back. I don't think I've ever seen like a swimsuit picture of any girl that I went to high school with. I don't think that ever happened.
because Facebook pictures weren't as popular back then. Sometimes these pictures of parties, but girls weren't really taking like, in 2005, 2004, girls weren't really taking pictures like that. It just didn't happen and then upload it online. But nowadays, like kids can see that even without porn. You can go and see like sexy pictures of your classmates or whatever they're posting. Can you post as a 15-year-old on Instagram? Actually, I have no idea.
I think you can.
You have to be 13.
Hold on, stop, because this fucking, I don't know if you're 12 or you're just some fucking boomer that's retarded. Limtheo, cameras existed, holy fuck. Getting pictures onto the internet was fairly difficult, okay? You either had to do some weird shit where you were printing out a fucking thing at Walgreens and then scanning it, or you had to like, I'm trying to think if there were digital cameras. I know that we had like you took pictures and you scrolled the thing where it was like, what am I thinking of? And then you got the film developed. Digital cameras existed, but they were dog shit if they did exist. And then like trying to upload those pictures or whatever, it was effort. Okay, iPhones didn't exist until 2007, and the pictures we took on our phones were dog shit. They were like 320 by 320 fucking kilobytes. They were horrible. Okay.
The most you had was probably yearbook photos, and then
Sure.
the person would have had to have been in like cheerleading or like swimming or some sort of like sport that had attire that was sort of like scantily clad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard this phrase? It's like there's no such thing as a private life that's so private it didn't affect the public. I think that's kind of what I'm drawing upon here. With this like weird parasocial thing, because you're saying that like, oh well, kids now and like even then like had access to some sort of materials of their friends and stuff like that, like, you know, Facebook photos and even maybe like revealing photos or whatever, just in like normal group context, like at a public pool or stuff like that. But I think the real potential danger here would be with the stuff that's interactive, that's like that goes both ways. Like you were playing earlier on stream, like these like AI voices of like Vosh saying things, you saying things, stuff like that. If you had the ability to kind of just like at will and very easily make these of your friends or something like that.
I thought about this a little bit more actually, and I actually don't think these things are going to be as big a deal, because I think that the sourcing on these is going to become important. If you're like a random nobody and you just come out with like having some fucking video, nobody's going to trust it. I think that where they come from, people are going to want to see like what was the video, what was the larger context where it came from.
I don't know. I don't know that people want to know like the backstory on, or like want to or care to or need to know the backstory on pornography like that.
Or no, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about just like character assassinating people based on deepfakes and stuff. Sorry.
Oh, okay. In that respect, then yeah, possibly.
I don't know about that one. You have to be primed pretty hard to be skeptical. We're naturally very trusting.
What?
Why do you think that?
When you get like just a 20-second audio clip of somebody, I think everybody is immediately skeptical if you don't have like context for where it came from. In fact, I would venture to guess that most people would distrust it if there was no greater context. If I just leaked a random audio clip online of somebody saying the N-word over and over again, I think most people would probably think it's fake without like some kind of greater context of where it came from.
Are you talking about right now or like in 5 years?
Right now.
Look at
how many people are saying the Andrew
disagree.
Tate fucking video, the audio clip was fucking faked. And that literally came from the DA, or the prosecutor, I should say, from the Romanian courts.
Yeah, but all of those people are primed to distrust the media source there. But if it was a completely neutral thing...
Wait, what?
All the people that are saying that the Andrew Tate stuff are primed hardcore to deny that. But I don't think any normal person is saying that's fake.
Oh, yeah, probably. But I mean, like whether you believe something is real or fake is going to fall on partisan lines for sure.
But if you have no interest in something, you're more likely to trust it. If you start from neutral.
If you start from, maybe. I guess it would just depend. I just think it's pretty rare that we just get like a 10-second audio clip that doesn't come from something, right? Like, can you think of for Trump, there was the grab him by the pussy thing, but besides that, like almost every other clip involved at least two humans that could verify that the conversation happened, right? It'll either be a phone call or an interview or a room with multiple people in it, right?
I think it's important to have verification when you're making extraordinary claims. I think extraordinary maybe extraordinary claims will prime you to want more sources, but in general, I think that if you're starting from a neutral position, you're going to be very trusting. Even going to be harder to, after you have an impression of that thing, to move you off of it.
Maybe.
So if you believe a deepfake, it's going to be really hard to convince you that it's no longer a deepfake.
Maybe, yeah. Why is this?
And there's a concept called persistence where even if I tell you that I'm the creator and I told you it's a deepfake,
Jesus.
2 weeks later when you remember it, you're more likely to remember that it wasn't a deepfake.
Wait, Sejin, what do you mean when you say people are starting from like a neutral standpoint?
Like if no one who heard about Andrew Tate saw the Andrew Tate clip where he's saying some
I
crazy
need-
stuff, they're likely to believe that he's actually saying that.
I need to not run this recipe.
Steven, you don't agree?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
If someone that doesn't know anything about Andrew Tate sees a clip about Andrew Tate that we're talking about, they're likely to believe that.
Yeah, if there's no other context and they don't have strong feelings about him one way or another, they'll probably believe it. But once they start to develop strong feelings, they might reevaluate it maybe. Kind of like how Bloomberg was polling really, really, really well in every state when he was just spamming ads. But then once people figured out who he was, his shit dropped off considerably.
I'd have to look more closely at that case, but in general, the literature that I've been reading says that like if you have an opinion, it's super hard to move you off of it without some extraordinary stuff going on.
Maybe. Okay. Any final closing thoughts? I gotta leave soon.
I'm good.
Okay. I love you all very much. Be careful, okay?